to wrap it up, the guy from the Newton crew. If Mike had chosen co-best men, the other one would have undoubtedly been Adam Rossow.
I want to start by just thanking the Millers and the Beckermans for what's already started off to be quite an amazing weekend. I also want to give a special thanks to all my college friends for befriending Mike and being here too. Can't tell you yet. End of the speech, buddy. So I have so many memories of Mike. I could literally stand up here all weekend talking. As most of you know, though, that's really Mike's forte. So I'm going to try and take you through 27 years of friendship in short snippets. So take a lesson, Mikey. Let's start at the beginning. My first memory of Mike was him standing at the top of my street waiting for me so we could walk to Memorial Spalding Elementary School together. Even at this early age, Mike already had the gift of gab, as my mom used to affectionately call it. Columbine Road was a short block, maybe 75 yards long, and as soon as I left my house, I could see Mike's mouth moving in the distance. I prepared myself as I got closer and closer, but when I got to the top of the street, there was no easing in. Mike was on fire, yammering on about the new sweatsuit he was wearing, giving me the Boston sports highlights from the previous night. He was like one of those dolls, but he did all the string pulling himself. Before I could even utter hello, I was up to speed on Mike's agenda for the entire week. 25 years later, our conversations are eerily similar. I wait a good 15 minutes for him to get a little parched or cough, and then I get to say hello. So on the weekends back then, Mike was my personal alarm clock. Go into my room and stand over my bed and ramble incessantly until I got up. Looking back, it was jarring and a bit creepy. But in a weird way, it was also very endearing, and it really cemented the fact that whether I liked it or not, Mike Beckerman was going to be in my life forever. So by junior high, Mike had earned the nickname Storytime. When you heard Mike utter those four little words, let me tell you, there was nothing you could do but settle in for the long haul. No interruption worked. Even leaving the room was futile. Every situation had an anecdote. Every anecdote had a backstory. To make matters even worse, he began to fancy himself an expert on everything. And he would engage you in this weird one-way game of useless trivia. Hey, Rossow, did you know that nuts are really considered a fruit? Nope, I thought you didn't. Even though we were both pretty impressed with ourselves in junior high, starting high school was a whole nother story. It was nerve-wracking. I vividly remember wanting to fit in so badly, and I was constantly in fear of being embarrassed. Thank God I had my best friend Mike to lean on. He must have the same fears and apprehensions, right? Well, I see Mike that first day of high school, and I'm mortified. He's wearing a lime green golf shirt straight from the Nancy Beckerman collection. The collar's popped, and he's chatting up the prettiest girls in school, bragging about how he's going to be #1 on the golf team. So I immediately contemplated transferring. But a funny thing actually happened. Everyone seemed to gravitate towards him, and soon Storytime had a captive audience of hundreds. High school wasn't all a fairy tale for Mike, though. There were some hard times. His ability to disarm you with a barrage of words and feminine shirts didn't exactly come in handy when we were mugged at the Natick bowling alley. These hooligans came out of nowhere and boxed our car in. Fortunately for them, they had the foresight to target the car full of Newton Jews, as opposed to the one filled with our football-playing Irish Catholic friends. Mike went with what he knew back then and tried to talk us out of the situation. Unfortunately, his words fell on deaf ears, and they held us captive until we paid them. They demanded $20. Our friend Josh Altschuler pulled out a 50 and politely asked for change. Mike's charms also fell short when we were accosted in Revere at the dog track. All of a sudden, this group of thugs started chasing us, screaming obscenities all along the way. Mike and I were in a dead sprint, him trying all the while to negotiate for our lives as we ran. We finally got some separation, made it to his 1982 Subaru, which essentially had a lawnmower for an engine, and we took off. Disaster averted, we thought. But the men, still on foot, mind you, caught up to the car and ran alongside us for the better part of a mile. It was surreal. Mike's screaming like a girl in the driver's seat. I've got my hand out the window, batting away our attackers. And after what felt like hours, they finally collapsed in hysterics and we putt-putted on home. After high school, Mike and I were forced to endure a long-distance relationship, him in D.C., me in Wisconsin. But 4 years later, we were joyfully reunited in New York City. He was living on the wrong side of 90th Street, and I had no apartment as of yet. He generously opened his tenement to me, offered me an air mattress, which popped 3 days later, and for 6 weeks I slept in his bedroom on his hardwood floor. Mike and I were like peas and carrots again. Years of hijinks ensued. There were hundreds of memorable nights, trips back to Boston, Montreal, Vegas, great food, better parties, and of course, countless sporting events. Speaking of which, there weren't many things better than going to a Red Sox-Yankees game in New York, but there weren't many worse things than sitting with Mike in the bleachers. Days before the game, I'd implore him to rein it in. There's no shame in wearing something nondescript, I'd say. Something with maybe just a little bit of red in it. Without fail, he'd show up at the subway in full uniform. Socks, hat, Big Poppy t-shirt, red stirrups, a foam finger, the works. We'd sit in the bleachers and endure endless taunting. Mike would always retort with comebacks that were way off the mark and encourage even more ill will to come our way. All the while, I'd sink further into my seat, begging him to stop. Needless to say, it wasn't uncommon for us to be pelted with peanuts from the opening pitch until the last out. While this seriously impacted my ability to enjoy the game, Mike could have cared less. As always, he was going to do his thing, and nothing was going to stop him. Fast forward just a few years later, my wife Marla and I finally get together, thanks in large part to Mike's ability to show me the amazing thing I had right before my eyes. Being friends for years, Marla already knew all about the man she affectionately dubbed Becky. However, what she didn't foresee was the multiple phone calls a day, the 125 baseball games we watched together every year, or the commitment that she herself would have to make to feigning interest in his stories. In fact, our relationship was so pervasive that before Marla and I really took our relationship to the next level, we had a candid sit-down. We discussed the important things. Do we want kids? What are our hopes and dreams? And of course, how was I going to balance my relationship with her and my time with Becky? I wound up negotiating 1 phone call every day and 3 visits a week. So now that I'm in Denver with Marla and our 2 boys, things have changed slightly. Mike and I can't talk multiple times a day, and we can't see each other as much as we used to. But that doesn't change the fact that Mike will always be my best friend. I know the best friend moniker has a tendency to get bestowed onto many different people as you go throughout life. Not for me. I've never known another friendship like ours, and I'm quite certain I never will. Mike is the most generous, funny, confident, bright, fun-loving, and talkative person I've ever met. Our friendship is one of the most special things in my life, and I'm thankful every day that our paths crossed at the corner of Old Farm Road and Columbine Road over 25 years ago. Whatever life brings, I know Mike will always be there. Not so much to listen, but at least to tell me a story and make me smile. And just quickly, what can I say about Morgan? She's everything I could have hoped for Mike and more. She's warm, vivacious, and of course, a great listener. After spending a weekend with her and Mike in Denver a year back, I knew without a doubt that she was the one for him. So Morgan, welcome to the Beckerman-Rostow family. We couldn't have asked for a better addition. Mazel tov. Thank you.